Welcome to episode 1 of the Project Tribe podcast, the podcast for engineers, designers and construction workers. And for listening today, you're now a part of the tribe. Today team, we've got a big one as we're joined by one of Newcastle's leading senior project engineers, Bowden. Dee migrated to Australia from Poland soon after she was born. She couldn't speak English until she went to school and grew up on the sunny sands of Bondi Beach. Dee went to University of Technology in Sydney, where she completed her civil engineering degree, and has since worked as an engineer with some of Australia's largest contractors like Abbey Group, Lendlease and Downer. She's my wife, mother of my beautiful daughter, and Dee. She joins us today.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Pete.
What do you think of the podcast station?
Yeah, it's growing on me. It's pretty impressive. I feel like I'm on the radio.
And episode 1, Project Tribe. What do you think of the name? Yeah. So, I wanted to start this podcast with you by stating that since I've worked in the industry, I've watched so many engineers getting interviewed, a lot of those female engineers, and I always find it odd that the interview of female engineers always have to allude to the fact that they're actually a female. So my goal for today is to do this whole process without drawing to that fact and just interviewing you like you're just one of the guys. How does that sound?
It sounds good. I shouldn't be treated any differently, so it sounds like a plan.
No, that's awesome. So starting out in construction, it can be pretty scary as someone who's left high school or recently left university and going into this industry, because it's pretty complex. There's a lot of personalities. Like, I remember for me that I had this impression that being on a construction site would just be, surrounded by big old burly dudes smoking cigarettes, crushing, 4 and 20 meat pies and just hurling abuse all day. And, maybe some of that still happens, but, soon after I joined, that just wasn't the case. And what I found was this industry is just full of, really intelligent, professional, hard workers. How was it for you starting out?
Yeah, I think there definitely is some of those old school guys out there that, smoke a pack of durries all day and have their VBs after work and whatnot. Yeah. But throughout my career in construction, they become your family. I feel like because we all move from job to job, they're all your family, site life. And
so good mateship and bonds with your teammates.
And they also create you, shape you for the person that you become. So a bit of tough love and I think that's still out there.
Was there any apprehensions joining industry? Were you worried about any of that kind of stuff? Because you came straight from university, you were living in Sydney, and then you started out on the Hunter Expressway project up near Cessnock.
Yeah, no, it was a bit challenging. I came out of university, left my eastern suburbs Bondi bubble and lived out in lovely Cessnock. Neck knock is what they call it. So It was, different scene, to your burnt out cars and whatnot. But I still think it's added to my expertise and shaped the person that I've become.
And what sort of challenges though did you have starting out as a young engineer on site?
Oh, just going from university lifestyle where you get to sleep in and maybe get to a lecture if you feel like it that day, to being there from 6 till 6 and 5 to 6 day weeks. It's exhausting.
I know.
They're big days.
Yeah, I remember when I started out, and I think like you, we had to get on site around 6 a.m, 6:30 a.m, and I think I had a headache every day for the first 4 weeks, and that's when I started drinking copious amounts of coffee. But it can be a big shock to the system, and it takes a while to get game fit, so to speak.
100%, yeah.
So do you think that going into construction engineering, that your actual engineering degree set you up to make that transition relatively smooth, or was there things that you struggled with?
I think an engineering degree is very challenging. You're there 36-hour weeks just in class and tutorials. So it's a difficult degree, but it has that logical problem-solving approach, which we do apply to everyday construction life. So I think some of it's helped.
Yeah, because it's not like you're going to be cranking out multivariable calculus on a construction
No,
site.
I'm not doing triple integrals anymore. Haven't done one of those since university.
Yeah, and I think a lot of guys doing the degree struggle with that because they're looking at this material going, well, hey, this ain't relevant to today's industry. We've got software,
computers that do
that do all this stuff.
Yes.
So, but I think there's potentially still reasons why they still teach that.
Oh, I think it's the fundamental background to our job though, because you have to, what's X? You got to
solve problems,
and that's what you do on site. Like on every project, you've got a issue. I don't think I've ever been on a project where we haven't had an issue that you have to come up with a solution.
And construction is just putting out fires left, right, and centre, and you do rely a lot on the guys around you, your team, and junior guys and senior guys. So there's a lot of like mentorship and coaching. What have you found? Have you been a mentee, or are you mentoring people?
Yes, no, I have been a mentor, and I have had mentors as well. Currently don't have any mentees, but I've always had mentors throughout my career, whether some of them don't even know it or are aware of it, but I definitely have had people throughout my career that you can ask questions and you feel comfortable asking those questions because you don't know everything, so you'd like to have that guidance throughout your career. Yeah,
and is there any like particular advice that just holds true that you remember that one of your mentors has told you that you just live by? Like,
I remember when I first started on site, when you're 23 years old and you've left home, and I had a senior project engineer who I remember she was asking me how I was finding settling into site life, and then I got upset and had a moment, and then just to this day I remember she just said, make sure you never cry like that in front of anyone ever again. And I never have again.
So,
game face at work, cry in the toilets.
You've got to have tough skin sometimes.
100%,
but, I feel that maybe that's also a bad thing, that people on site can't communicate to the team potentially how they're feeling.
It is. Do
you think that's changed now?
Well, I think now we've got, Mates in Construction, and there's these communities that let people talk about their feelings, because like you said at the beginning of the interview, there's, the big burly guys that hold stuff, and depression is a big part of, like, it is sadly a part of construction life as well. So if we've got these, family people that you can open up to, it's important to communicate your feelings as well. Yeah,
I think that has come a long way in the last few years of guys on site not being so, withdrawn and actually able to talk to their mates about what's going on in their personal lives, their professional life, if they're happy, if they're not happy. And, we've obviously got a long way to go as an industry, but, when I started 14 years ago, there was none of that talk, and now we've got, MIC and a whole bunch of initiatives that are getting rolled out. So that's awesome. I wanted to talk to you about technical challenges and competence. And for me, like in our industry, competence is king. Like there's nowhere to hide in construction. If you've got a crappy design, it's going to show itself at some stage during the project. And, vice versa, if you've got a shitty builder, well, then it's going to become quite apparent that they're not up to the challenge. So, looking at those things, that's in reality what I love so much about our industry. It's just so raw, it's so brutally honest. How important is competence to you in construction, or is it trumped by something else like culture, or I don't know?
No, well, competency is obviously important because you have to have people that can actually build the job. Otherwise, the job will go over budget and program, and a range of things go wrong. So it's important to have competent people. However, I have been on some projects that we, for example, at Williamtown, RAF Base, when I first started with Lendlease, none of the engineers had ever built a runway extension before, and we all had to build a runway. So, that was challenging. However, we had all built, freeways and highways before and roads, so the mentality of construction was still the same.
But that's still got to be a hard thing to sell to the client, right? You're presenting them a team with potentially without those skills to do their project.
Yeah, but I mean, where else do you start? So we were fortunate enough to win the job, and now we've all developed those skills, and I'm now potentially, like for example, I've moved on to another company because of those skills that I've developed.
Yeah, okay. I guess they
Because we did a good job.
you know, before they put a dude on the moon, they never put a dude on the moon before.
That's it.
So you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. You know, how else do you get experience if no one gives you a go?
Yeah, it's a tough. It's like, you know, many clients choose their team based on previous experience, but you know, if you haven't done it before, then that's a hurdle. It's like if you look at many industries, it's like, well, you might have done all these other projects, but if you haven't done, I don't know, an education project or a defence project or a schools project, well then the clients often just don't look at you.
Yeah.
But you know, I think half the battle is actually educating clients in terms of, well, most of our skills are applicable across a whole bunch of different projects.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
it's not the actual, you know, specificity of the project. It's actually the process in which that project is
delivered.
produced.
Yeah. Well, as a client, maybe you should consider that when you're assessing your future tenders. Pete.
Oh, we do. Yeah, it's an interesting one. No, so, you know, you're a contractor. You've always been a contractor. Do you ever think you'll come to the dark side of consulting?
Never say never. I don't know. At this stage, I love being a contractor. I absolutely love my job.
What do you love about it? What is so good about it?
I really love my job, really. I just love that you never do the same.
Hey, just quickly, can you just move that microphone a little bit to you?
Oh, sorry.
Keep it going.
How did that end up so far away?
That's much better.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, so much better. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to have to do this again.
No, we're not.
All right, so
yeah, no, sure. No, I love my job because I'm just, you know, we always do something different on site and we have problems to solve. And you have a new team. Like most of the time you come across and work with different people.
But consultants have that as well, right?
Yeah,
Consultants are always solving contractor issues or design issues or client issues.
I think it's like the actual construction side of things that I like when the, you know, something's wrong in the pour and we've got adju's backing up and you've got to quickly come up with a solution to fix it. And it's just that constant problem solving, like we said at university, like you got to fix it.
Putting out fires or solving problems?
Bit of both.
I mean, but, you know, contractors in Australia, I think there is some kind of negative. Well, I love working with contractors. I love contractors. And without contractors, you just can't get the project done. And I think a lot of project managers actually make that mistake in trying to bash the contractors over the head a little bit too much. But there is still in parts of our industry like negative perceptions around contractors, you know, perceptions that they screw subbies, they withhold payments, they don't approve legitimate variations, you know, because the subbie might have missed a single liner on page 3,000 of the specification in a 2-week tender period. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't agree with screwing subcontractors on a clause 3,000 pages into a specification, which I probably didn't even know was there. Yeah. So, I mean, I think...
So you're willing to take a hit on that?
Yeah, yes and no. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm happy to assess every variation as fair and reasonable. So, you know, some subbies win, some they don't. So it's the industry that we're in. You know, we're all out there to make a dollar. We don't need to screw our subcontractors where we will probably have to work with them on the next job and the next job. So it's a small industry. We all know each other. And as contractors as well, like we do the same for clients as well. We might take a hit as well to win the next job as well.
But like, you know, looking at you know, projects and there's not a whole lot of money in construction in terms of the profit. Like it's a fairly commoditized marketplace. Do you think that clients are generally just driven by price?
No, not at all. I think it's also the quality, the outcome, the program, all the other essential parts of the project. Like, for example, I recently just finished Cessnock Correctional Centre at prison, and this was the stage 3 of that prison upgrade, and the contractor that had completed the second stage wasn't awarded the third stage based on some of the performance that they had. So
it wasn't price?
No.
The client paid more?
I think so. Not sure.
Well, that's cool.
I won't expand on that one. But I know throughout our construction stage, they definitely gave us constructive feedback, positive feedback throughout the build.
I mean, so, you know, do you think that's one way that contractors can set themselves apart these days is through better performance in that safety space or just quality of product? How do you think contractors can set themselves apart better?
Well, it's all those things. It is your quality, it's your safety factors, the team as well, the approach with the client. All these things are important, you know, to the even occasionally having a few drinks with a client on a Friday afternoon. Like that whole involvement and not.
But by that stage, you're already on the project, you know.
Yes, sorry.
How do you know what clients are up? How do you know what the client's priorities are before you get in bed with them, so to speak? It's a tough one.
Well, it's true. That is through the tender stage.
Yeah.
I've always been out on the site live. So from my experience on site, though, it's also important. Well, that is something I find if you've got a good relationship throughout site, that client will take that to the next project he's looking after it. So it's important to have a good relationship and an honest relationship with a client. You don't want to hide things from your client because they're going to find out eventually. So
as they say, send good news by a carrier pigeon and bad news by lightning. I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't know.
Okay.
Send good news, you know, be
Words of
reserved on your
wisdom
good
over
news
there,
and send your bad news as quick as you can.
Okay, let's just leave it at that.
You know, construction's got another reputation of being pretty poor on the innovation front. Like, you know, in the last 14 years, I haven't seen too many crazy innovations in the construction industry. We're still doing things basically like the same that we did, you know, when I started. What do you think about that? Do you think construction is good at innovating, or are there areas that we can improve innovation in construction?
Well, I mean, on site again, what I've noticed throughout my experience is that we are using, for example, technology in the sense like we use iPads now to do toolboxes, which then get sent straight
but are
to the
iPads
server.
like innovative, or is it?
Well, it's an advance in
iPad?
Technology. It's being sustainable because we're not printing out paper and, you know.
But then you've got this big chunky iPad full of lithium to try to get rid of, right?
Well, you know, maybe it gets reused in.
And you can recycle paper.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Well, I don't know, Pete. I'm just a diesel sniffer.
My God. No, that's cool. Well, look, I did want to wrap up today by just talking about, you know, for me, like the future in Australian construction is pretty bright, right? Like the government's just announcing billions of dollars worth of new projects in all the various states and territories and things like that. But where do you think your career is going and where are you trying to go?
Yeah, well, currently, I like I said, I love being out on site.
I know you don't want to be a consultant.
I don't. I never said never. However, I'm enjoying, you know, my career progression and just climbing the corporate ladder, which I'm currently doing quite well. Yeah, I'd like to say.
a few more rungs to go, but
that's it.
You're getting there. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Steve. It's been great to have you.
My pleasure.
No, look, episode 1 I think has come off, so hopefully you don't have to film this one again.
Thanks.
Well, crew, thanks for joining us on episode 1. You can follow us at wildara.com.au, and if you want to jump on the show, we'll email me at podcast@wildara.com.au. Thank you so much. Take care.